Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. My name's Scott Alexander. Welcome to the MII TED Talk Club. We've just been watching The Skill of Self-Confidence by Dr. Ivan Joseph, who's a soccer coach over in America. And with the help of our panel and the audience here, we're going to look at, I suppose, how relevant or appropriate even is self-confidence to mediators and to mediation. Now, before we get started, I believe we have a couple of poll questions for you in the audience. So, Kasia, first poll question. Okay, here's the first poll. On a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you about your own capability to cope with unforeseen circumstance when you mediate? So, pick one of those. And hopefully we'll see a few of you coming in.
Just 1 second, I need to share it again. Apologies.
Okay. Okay, go again now, folks. Scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you about your own capability to cope with unforeseen circumstances when you mediate? Okay, end the poll if everyone's voted. Look at this. We're coming out with, on a scale of 1 to 5, everyone's fairly confident. There's none of you think you're wrong. Oh, look at that. Here's a booster. Here we go. Oh, somebody's getting a bit self-doubt, just like the video. Yeah, here we go. Okay, do you want to end the poll there and we'll see what the answers are? We've got 90% there. Share the results. Okay. So we're looking at a fair bunch there, around about the 3 or 4 out of 5, which I make 60 to 80% confident of unforeseen circumstances. That's quite good. I think that's good. It shows that there's a fair degree of, if not expertise, at least experience. And there's a second poll question, is it? If you stop sharing that one. We've got the second poll question.
I don't know why they don't show in this one. I can read them out if I open it up.
Yeah, read them out. Read them out, Kasia. Why not?
So most of the people said preparation, study, and then experience.
Okay.
And then also always wait and see.
Wait and see. It's a very, very good tip for every mediator, I think. Wait and see. Something will happen. Yeah, we just stay silent long enough, somebody will fill the hole. Right, that's excellent. Look, we're going to move on to the panel now, so thank you very much for taking part in those polls. And we have a guest speaker on the panel today, so I'm going to introduce him today, and he's come all the way from Amsterdam. It's Ewout Goudsmit. He's a Belgian business mediator and negotiator, advisor running an independent practice in Amsterdam focused on complex and cross-border commercial disputes. He's affiliated with Result ADR, one of the Netherlands' largest specialist mediation firms, and is part of the International Academy of Mediators. His approach sits at the intersection of law, behavioral psychology, and decision-making, with a particular interest in how systemic dynamics and cognitive bias shape conflict and its resolution. He writes on mediation practice and is one of the founders of the International Business Mediation Competition. Welcome, Ewout. The first question that we ask everybody on the panel is, give me one thing that you took from that video that you think might be relevant to the discussion.
I think it's the phrase repetition. And it's actually quite funny because I have an article in the pipeline that strikes me the most and maybe made me lucky in my mediation practice, is that the title of that article is "Mediation is a Top Sport That Never Practices."
Okay, go on.
So, and I find that kind of funny. Like I studied mediation at university, and I founded a study club there, and I think I've easily done 500 moods mediation role plays as a participant, as a mediator, as a coach, as an observer, as in any capacity. And I think that exposure enabled me to start my own practice very soon. I'm now 32, and it's something that I still do with old students, is just put me on that chair as a mediator. We do a role play, and the students who are not participating shouldn't just score the participants in the mediation, because mostly it's mediation advocacy. And I'm then playing the mediator. They also ask them to give me feedback. And I think that we can all practice a little more as a mediator. Do role plays. Don't be shy to put yourself out there in front of peers and have them give your 2 cents on how you did.
Okay. So we're going to do role plays. We're going to look at this repetition, or indeed sitting there and not practicing. But we're going to talk about practice as we go in there. It's interesting you say that, because I've been asked for the Mediators Institute of Ireland conference on the 9th and 10th, folks, of October to create a guidance pack for all the reflective practice and learning groups on how to run role plays. So there you go. That's a nice bit of synergy. We'll move across the Atlantic, I think, to Jane Buzek, and I'll do the wee intro here, Jane, if it's all right, before we bring you in. She's principal of Collaborative Communication Group, an executive coaching, consulting and mediation firm based in the Chicago area. For over 20 years, Jane has enjoyed engaging clients as a facilitator, coach, consultant, and mediator at every level across multiple industries. Jane has mediated hundreds of cases ranging from gang crime to eviction to human rights charges. So again, maybe either following on from what Ewout's been saying, or something else you picked up from that video that interested you, Jane.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. So I was struck, and maybe this perspective will be a little bit different, but I was struck by how his talk applies to the self-confidence of the participants in the mediation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in my experience, mediation participants, they come with varying degrees of self-confidence generally. But I found that the participants or the parties, they don't have a great amount of confidence in their skills as participants in a mediation. And they're given the instructions, they're informed of the process. They sort of understand that they're meant to both share their thoughts and feelings and listen to the other side as well. But I don't think they're always sure how openly are they meant to share their thoughts and emotions, how emotive are they allowed to be. So during crosstalk, one thing I do to help the parties feel more confident is to catch them when they're good, as the speaker said. So when they're expressing back and forth, sometimes they're angry, sometimes they're very emotional, but most importantly, openly, I praise them. And I'll say something like, this is clearly an issue that means a lot to both of you. And I so appreciate your willingness to be able to talk about this with each other, about what is important. This is hard, and you're doing it. Thank you. And it sometimes takes them aback because, like, as a trainer of other mediators, especially lawyers or judges that are wanting to get into the field, they will stop emotion in its tracks and say, this is not productive. But emotions are data, as we all know, as facilitative mediators. And so it's important. And so to let them know you're okay doing this. And of course, there's the caveats of, no abusive language and so on. But we let them know they're doing it right by expressing their feelings and listening to the other person. And it's a safe environment to do so. So in my experience, when their confidence as a participant is raised, the process itself is more productive. And the agreement is more productive.
Okay, so you're giving them almost, it's more than agency, I suppose. It's about saying that you can do this. There's the gentle encouragement thing, focusing on the positive, not the negative. It's not quite deflecting, but what you're consciously doing is saying, look, you've got here, you've come this far, let's have a look at where we are, whatever it is, but you're looking at catching them when they're good. Okay, so we're catching them when they're good, and we're practicing with Ewout. We're going to bring in our third panelist today now, and then I'll open it up to the audience if you want to come in with any questions. We have Avril Sheridan. Avril is a former litigation solicitor, 22 years experience, who has seen the light and is a mediator with particular expertise in the area of separating couples, with a focus on client-centric solutions. Avril is proud to
Yes.
offer her expertise in navigating complex family dynamics. Her background equips her to guide you through the intricacies of conflict resolution, ensuring a swift and effective path forward. Last year, Avril was named the most professional mediator in South Dublin by the EU Business News Irish Enterprise Awards. Welcome again, Avril. Anything you take from the video? Anything you want to?
Yeah, just to kind of take one sentence out of it. I think the ability to put up with setback. Sometimes you find the clients are kind of getting into a difficult spot.
Okay.
And I think you've got to say, oh, I see where you're having difficulties now. Can we just try and park that for a little bit and maybe try and look at this or whatever? So it's, I suppose, deflecting and trying to get people, once there's a setback, to try get them back on course.
Yeah, okay. Is that a bit like normalizing it then?
It is, I suppose it is, yeah.
Okay. You're going to get some kind of roadblocks or whatever everyone
Yeah,
says.
of course.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. Right? I mean,
Yes, yeah.
if they didn't need a mediator, they wouldn't be in mediation.
Yeah,
I think that's fair enough. So we're looking at roadblocks. We're looking at, I suppose, accentuating the positive.
Yes,
and we're
yeah,
looking
no,
at-
yeah. Yeah, I had Big Jane's words as well. Catch them when they're good, because that makes such a difference to the mediation when you do say, oh my God, you did that so well. Gosh, you're really making progress. They just love it. They just lap it up. So I had that one, but then she stole it.
We'll bring in you out. We'll put the positivity stuff. If you've got a phone on somebody, if you could maybe switch that off, that'd be great. What I'm hearing, right, if I'm picking up things right, is that we go into mediation and everybody loves to be treated like a child. They get, oh, you've done so well, little Scotty, well done.
Yeah.
None of this beating
Yeah.
around the things. Not a kick up the arse for doing it wrong, but a little pat on the head for doing it right. Is there anything else, Ewout, that you want to bring through on the themes that you've heard so far? There's other areas that we can go.
Let's see if I have my audio on. I mean, I also did the catch them when they're good really resonated with me, and not only when they're doing particularly something good, but also when they're intentionally or not showing a little bit of self-reflection, or even if it's like sort of a hook for a connection that you can make them connect with each other. Like also something like, hey, I heard you say this. When you hear this kind of apology of reasoning, how does that sound to you? Because you know it's going to connect on some level. And for me, that's also a part of the catch them when they're good. Not only when they're like collaborative or anything, but also when you see that they share something on the table that you can work with.
Okay, can I maybe stay with you just at the moment, Eli? Because at the moment we're focused on the positive. This whole video that we just watched is about self-confidence, but we're focusing on the positive. We've also had Avril say, yeah, but sometimes there's roadblocks, so we've got to normalize that. That's okay. So we're continually being the positive thing. We're confident that we're going to draw out the positives. But some of those do come out. Sometimes you get bad behaviours in a mediation. And how might you deal with those? Is it take them into a caucus, have a break? What do you do? How do
well,
you
it's not that I have a playbook or a rule book of how I'm going to respond when I hear bad behavior. It's not that. But the one thing that now triggers me back to the comment that I made, the comment was mine, just wait and see.
Yeah.
And I've learned more and more to do just that. Like, even if somebody makes a snarky comment, instead of like having this reflex of wanting to step in and say like, ho, 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 let's not do that. It's just doing like the opposite. Because then somebody tracks back on the words that they just uttered. And then they will fill in the silence most of the times themselves, coming with a little bit of nuance, I've learned. And when they don't, and when it clashes, it clashes. And even then, sometimes I do nothing, because the rant is going to end at some point. Like the moment somebody would stand up and slam their fist on the table, that might be a point where I would step in, because I don't think that's the idea. I'm not even sure I would do that 100%. But the emotions can also be there. It's fair to some extent.
Yeah, because it's important to them.
It's important,
Yeah.
It's important. It wouldn't be there.
So it's not a kumbaya all around the campfire. Let's celebrate what's good, right? I mean, they're still fighting over something.
Yeah.
And sometimes that needs to be outed, and maybe they have these thoughts already circling in their own narrative for months, and once it's out there, then they hear themselves actually saying it, and then they'll find new ones.
Yeah.
At some point.
Okay, so we're now moving on from practicing, but practicing doing zero, right? It's not doing nothing, but it's allowing the emotions to, I don't know, fertilize Jane, infiltrate, smoke around. I don't know what it's going to be like. But Ivan Joseph, in his video, he was chatting about, what's a coach do? We fix mistakes. Well, we're mediators. We don't fix stuff, or we shouldn't be fixing stuff. We're letting the other people. So how might you take that, fix things, and say we're not going to fix them? Well, how would you deal with that, where you see things that are going awry?
Did you talk to me?
Yeah, it was, Jane. Yeah.
Oh, Scott, I was listening intently, but I was okay. So I was thinking about that.
Praising you here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And that was my phone. I'm so like, who's calling me? It's so early in the morning. I'm so sorry that, yeah. So I was thinking about this. And even though I was thinking about this video in the context of how to give parties confidence, with the conversation we've been having about roadblocks or things that go awry, I think what's interesting is the confidence, and it could be experience. Like my one was experience. Now I don't know that she'd necessarily need it, because my dad used to always say, "Fake it till you make it," right? So if you don't know how to be confident, you can act as if. But let's say things are going awry for whatever reason, like somebody does put the fist on the table, like you were saying. There's a confidence in being like, I can't be like, I personally as a mediator or professionally as a mediator, I'm not bothered by crazy, by angry, by any of that. So it's hard to derail me. And when I like to people's points, it's like if you're feeling strongly and you say something snarky, or you say something that's rude, to me that says this matters a lot to you. Let's figure out a way, or might there be a way to say this in a way that the other person can hear you, because it sounds like it's really important that you be heard. And if that's in crosstalk, I like to what I call caucus in public, or caucus and crosstalk, because I feel like when they can hear each other, that's real important. Yeah. But you might do it in private. That's okay too. But when things go awry, that's usually the awry, in quotes, in a mediation is identified by most people as being too strong of emotion or inappropriate expression of emotion or something like that. And I try to normalize that, but also instruct, direct, model how that strong emotion can be expressed in a way that will be heard and will be productive for the conversation.
Okay, so give me an example of how you do that, because I'm presuming that's how you show up. We've had discussions before on the TED Talk Club about how the mediator shows up, and this video has been about self-confidence.
Yeah.
So from all three of you is that you turn up, these people are going crazy, they're throwing spears at each other, but you're going, it's okay, it's chill, I can face anything. So we asked a question there in the poll, how confident are you to deal with things that happen, unexpected events? And what I'm hearing from the three of you is, hey, it's fine, it's going to be cool. We're going to deal with it because we've got the tools.
Yeah.
So is it how you show up at the start that you minimize the chances of that happening? Jane?
I don't worry about minimizing that happening. I suppose I'm quoting you again, but the wait and see. I think I go in a very, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. All the data will come from my parties. I do a little bit of research at the beginning, but not much. And, I do sort of set to your point, Scott, this is an opportunity for you both to share what's most important to you and to hear what's most important to the other side. There may be strong emotions. That's great. I appreciate that. I want that to happen. We're going to try to keep it, not civil. I'm not interested in civility. I'm interested in just not and I don't know how I don't know that I even say this. I only have to say it if it's necessary. I wait and see if it's necessary. But I don't know. I don't know if
there's also something very strong that you said there, Jane, because it's to a high extent it's also a paradoxical intervention. Is that you said something like I want the emotion, like people are angry or people are frustrated or people don't feel hurt, and the moment you actually name that that's what you want, then you see how the emotion softens on the spot because they have the feeling that their emotion have a place at the table.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I even make exact that intervention. Oh, I see this makes you angry. Good. We can work with that. How can we make this useful for this conversation?
Same.
Because that's also one of my catchphrases or go-to phrases is emotions are good. I can work with them. It would be more of a problem if you would show indifference.
Yes.
And that and I don't know, that brings people somewhere.
Okay, that's an interesting point. I'll maybe move on to Avril again. This we can work with that. So I suppose it goes down to the mediators and whether you're a facilitator or whether you're evaluative or whether you're trying to fix things as the speaker on the TED Talk put. But what I'm picking up here is that, and this may resonate with some of the people on the call or some people watching this afterwards who haven't mediated a lot. Some of the students maybe that the mediators here have been teaching, is that sometimes with the self-confidence comes, it's okay. I know it might be awful at some point, but the fact is it's really important. Our job's not to fix it. And our job is also, I'm thinking, not to leaving the process with things that are unsaid or undealt with. Because if they don't let the emotions out, they haven't dealt with things that are really important, presumably, is what I'm hearing. Avril?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I agree with you there in that you have to kind of almost tease it out, because if that's not put on the table, it won't fix for them. They won't be able to get that flow of communication between them, and that's what you really want them to be able to have, some sort of basic level of communication with each other going forward. So I think that's really, really important. Yeah.
Okay, so we have to have the confidence or the self-confidence when we're mediators that we don't exactly know what's going to happen. Sometimes we'll have a very, very scant knowledge of what actually the dispute's about. But that's saying to me, Ewout, that you have a huge level as a mediator that you'll be able to work with whatever you get. Right? I mean, it's not, you can't go in there, at least I'm assuming this, you can't go into an unknown situation where emotions are high, where language could be choice, and not have a belief that you'll be able to cope with whatever comes out.
My thoughts are going in different places. First and foremost, what I've come to experience is that I can't predict it anyway. So how I work in practice, I first always have that crosstalk or that caucus with parties separately. And only when I think their decision ready, and I've coached them also a bit, especially in employment disputes, like employment disputes in that sense are quite straightforward, or the employee comes back or he leaves. So I also coach them a little bit in making them decision ready. And then they always the question comes up, what do you think of it? And it's like, I can't think anything of it. And even if I would, I've come to learn that I can't predict it anyway. It's always the cases in which you think, okay, this might take an hour or two, but this is going to be an easy one. 4 sessions later, they go out without a deal. And the opposite is also true. So you can't predict it. And also the title of the talk, second thought, because that was the first thought, I can't predict it. Second thought is that self-confidence. I think I'm past the stage of thinking about self-confidence. It's not the confidence in myself whether I can do it or not. Like my worst case intervention as always wait and see anyway. It's the confidence in mediation. And in that sense, the numbers speak for itself. The vast majority settles, whether it's a settlement agreement or a reconciliation, the vast majority settles. So it's not about whether I'm confident in myself or not, it's that I'm so confident in the process. Even if I don't know what to do or what to say. Even that long pause is an intervention on its own, which moves you past the deadlock.
Yeah, I remember when I was being trained by a former president of the MII, and he goes, "It works. Just trust the But it's a process.
It works.
It's you can't go straight to settlement. You've got to go through the things that we've been chatting about today. I maybe come in with you, Avril, just about that particular point there about trust in the process that gives you confidence, because it doesn't always work. But I don't know that I've ever had a mediation where things have gotten worse. You know, at least they're better informed. You know what I mean? Even if they don't settle, so they know which buttons not to press. But what about yourself? What about your faith in the process? Because the process for family mediation, where you have these short meetings going backwards and forwards, is totally different to employment.
It is. I think there has been one or two cases where I don't think they came in looking for a resolution. They came in looking for to continue on. And I just felt that
they wanted an audience.
They wanted an audience. Exactly. And I think those ones, I didn't trust in the process because they weren't really partaking in the process. They were putting on a little show, you know. But it was only that's literally only one or two, you know, out of God, I don't know how many, but I think always, I know I do go on the basis that the process will work. You know, you have to jig it around sometimes, but it does work. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, so we're going to leave aside some people that almost try and abuse the process. I'll come to you in a second, Jane. But some questions are now coming in, which is excellent. And I suppose this ties in with the theme from Jennifer. Is it better to go into mediation without expectations and deal with whatever transpires? And our second one is from Jennifer. Is there a danger of being seen as taking sides if you acknowledge too much of someone's emotion, where one party can be better at expressing the same than the other one?
Yeah, those are really great questions.
Yeah.
Oh, was that for me, Scott?
Yeah,
I'm like all over the place today. So I'm going to go with the first one. Absolutely. Is it better to go into mediation without expectations and deal with whatever transpires? Yes, because you have the skills and the ability to take what data comes from your parties. But I like your second question a lot too. It's like, is there a danger of being seen as taking sides if you acknowledge too much? So if you've got one person who's expressing more, let's say they're all over the place, right? And I, as the mediator, am only, sort of saying, this is great, thank you so much. My job always, or our jobs as the mediator, is always to balance any imbalance of power. And power can be interpreted lots of different ways, right? One could be power over the taking up the oxygen in the room, right? So you need to balance that to make sure that the other party, even if they're a little bit less forthcoming, is also able to express and be heard. So that's my perspective on that.
Yeah, there's a bit of balance there. Eva, yourself, you can come back on those, but I see another question here from Diane. As a newly qualified mediator, it has been useful to be reminded of participant confidence and how to build that and not just worry about my own confidence. Also, emotions are data has now stuck in my head. And there you go.
Yeah. Emotions are data.
Everyone's getting great quotes in today, so there you go. Anyway, what about you? What about that question there?
Especially the second one, I really like that one. It puts me to another, which I think is a false distinction, which has been written a lot about, is whether being facilitative or evaluative. I really think that's a false distinction. Like, whether you like it or not, you're evaluating. So I don't proclaim myself anymore as this big neutral person who tries to keep the balance at all time. I'm leaning in on both stories, and I'm leaning heavily in on both stories. And I always make that disclaimer in the beginning of mediations, like, hey, this is going to happen. I'm going to lean in a lot in your story. I'm going to be your greatest advocate, and I'm also going to be the devil's advocate at some point. And I think what comes with that, I think that the importance or the point I want to make is that exact disclaimer. As long as you make that disclaimer in the beginning, like, hey, if you have the feeling at some point that I'm leaning too much on the other person's sides in a way that it makes you uncomfortable, please point it out. I can imagine if egos or emotions are at play in mediation, that might feel like I'm being impartial. It could also be that I am being impartial, or that I just express myself how you say that, impractically or onhandig in Dutch. And I think you can, and I'm not sure how you can translate that to English, but it's just make that disclaimer and then just do your thing.
Okay, so what I'm
and then see how the party reacts. Like, what I also want to say is, to some point, because I'm trying to express myself here clearly, I don't find the risk of leaning into a party story completely my risk. If it makes the other party uncomfortable, look at their body language or ask them how they feel when I'm paraphrasing or leaning into a story.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm picking
Always
up,
get it to the surface.
yeah. Oh, I get that, and also what I'm hearing from you, Ewart, is authenticity. Okay, you're going in there
Yeah.
and you're saying, like, I'm really listening. Okay, and you reflect back and
Yeah.
you summarize or whatever you're saying. Is this really what you're saying? Can you tell me? You're trying to help somebody express themselves, which is something that we're chatting about before, where somebody's all over the place and the other one's quite stern.
Definitely.
You're
Definitely.
going, okay, tell me more, because at that stage, it's really important that the other side does hear what's being said. So you're trying to get them to listen in, and one way of doing that and using our skills is to
Yes.
genuinely interested in what they're saying.
Yeah. And added to that, and that's really the point I want to make, is being hyper explicit on what you're doing. Like, again, if you have that one person who's showing like a maxed out emotion, I might announce like, hey, I see that it's doing a lot to you. Let me lean into that story for a bit. So I'm also announcing that what I'm going to do and the empathy I'm going to show to one side. And if you see that the other part is becoming a bit uncomfortable, is that you also announce, and I'm going to come back to you also in a bit, to make sure that people know what I'm doing and that it's not just me moving my chair and hopping to one side of the table, so that it becomes a 2-to-1 negotiation.
Yeah, excellent. This is a very good stuff. Avril, I see more questions are coming in here, and you can pick up on any of the points that you've heard thus far about authenticity, leaning in, throwing out the caveats. I will be challenging. I will be coming in here. I will be going towards someone and then coming and challenging. But Jennifer, back again. You get top prize here for all the questions, Jennifer. Emotions can be used as a tool by parties in some instances, and following on from Thomas, exactly what you said. I tell parties that I play both teams and tend to switch during the match as part of my role. Please let me know if you're concerned or annoyed. So those themes are coming through. You're being upfront. This is the way it's going to work. This is the way I'm going to run this thing. I will be trying to understand. I will be leaning towards. Oh, loads of stuff coming in. There's a very active bunch today.
And the disclaimer is key, Scott. I think it's all about expressing what you're going to do, or what you are doing. Because if you don't do that part, I think then you're messing up.
Okay, so there's reliability.
Just always subtitle yourself or something.
Okay, Avril, any comments on what you've heard?
No, I think signposting is very important for the parties. Other than that, it can come across as very unbalanced. So I think that's a good way of balancing it. And sort of saying, look, I know I've spent time with you, and I'll come over to you now, or whatever. You've just got to keep signposting. Otherwise, they think they've lost you, or you're ignoring them or something. People can be very sensitive, because they're in a very emotional place, so that they are much more sensitive. Yeah, so you've got to be conscious. Okay.
Yeah. And I suppose following on, going back to Jane now, I mean, if somebody's annoyed at an imbalance in a mediator, then they're not going to be thinking about their issue. They're going to be thinking about the mediator. They're going to be thinking about how I'm being cheated, like Hearts were at football last night. It's that type of thing that people are always thinking about. They're not really thinking about the potential positive or growth. They're thinking about the mediator. The mediator shouldn't really be the one that's been thought about. I'm thinking our job is to help the others. So any comments on that kind of thing, or what you've heard?
Yeah. I was struck by something that Ewald said about being, I'm an advocate, but I'm also going to play devil's advocate. I like the way that comes
Yeah.
out. I always say, like when people say you're supposed to be neutral, I always say instead, I'm multiply advocative. I advocate
Exactly.
for you, and also the relationship, and whether or not the relationship wants to continue. Doesn't matter what only thing that matters is what you all want. If someone is feeling that I am, I suppose what I do is I always have that disclaimer in every mediation that I do. I say, if at any point you feel that I'm not hearing you or that you feel I'm being biased, please let me know. That's the last thing I want. You can tell me in joint session, you can pull me aside. I want to be here for both of you equally. So I just sort of name it out loud.
Okay, we're coming near the end, but we're hearing all about disclaimers and getting people while they're good and accentuating the positive, but also leaning in and listening to the stories. We've done all those types of things. But there's another question coming and a horrible comment from a Celtic supporter.
I see that.
Yeah. The green colour spectacles. Anyway, from Heather, we have the original question asked was, does self-confidence have a place in mediation? Yes. However, I feel you require confidence in yourself, your skills, and to make mistakes. I would also add confidence in the process and raise the point of self-belief in the parties, how confident this was touched on by Jane. So going to Ewa, I suppose in that process there, I've always thought one of the good things about mediation is if I mess up, I've always got time to correct it. You know, hey, sorry about that. I've got to be a thing. Like, sorry, that's okay. Can we deal with that? You know, there's always a bit of time to get out of it. If I speak quite quickly and people attack me for supporting a good team. That kind of thing. So what about the self-confidence? What about the point of Ivan Joseph about getting rid of these negative self-thoughts? Do you go in? I'm not getting the impression from the panel today that you go in with this self-affirmation other than it's their problem, they can fix it. I'm going to help them.
Well. That's a bit the part where it becomes destructive, right? Like, because if you're going in with that self-confidence, like I'm the man, I'm
the best.
I'm the best, I'm going to do this, then what you're actually going to do is going to work hard. And I think one of my first trainers ever said that, after all, being a mediator is a very lazy profession. And that should always be the main reflex that you have. If you can choose between intervening or not intervening, always choose not intervening. Like, if you have something clear that you see that you can work with, make that intervention, make that comment, make that connection, make that paraphrase. But if you're doubting between, is this a good point to step in or not, don't. Because it's not about you, it's about the conversation that the parties are having.
Okay, so never make a comment when a question will do as well. Okay, we're coming.
Exactly.
We're coming near the end. We're coming near the end. So we're going to tidy this up at the moment. Avril, go to you. Is there any kind of final thing? We've heard a fair sweep here about confidence and where it can get too far. We've had the notice of the openness and the caveats that you bring forward, the disclaimers. Look, I might be, as Thomas has put it, I'm not impartial, I'm bipartial. What have you got to say about today? Maybe wrapping up or something from the video.
Well, I don't think, going in, because he's talking that from a sports guy, going in, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, or whatever.
It's going to get far.
I don't think that would work. It wouldn't work for so I think, it was different. He was talking about sports. I think mediation is different. Yeah, it's more about listening, all right. But I thought, made a comment there, a very interesting comment about that. You should be lazy rather than intervening, which is something I actually hadn't thought about.
But it's emotionally draining just to sit there.
Yes.
It's emotionally draining.
Yes.
I'm always shattered at the end of the mediation. I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe it's because I'm trying to focus too much. But yeah, sometimes I go in, right, I wear a cloak and I high five them as I go in, that type of stuff, and wear a crown. But
Right.
it doesn't always work. Doesn't always work.
Right.
Only when I'm at the sports places. Any final comments on today's discussion or what you've heard or wrapping up?
My last thought is that, yeah, if you're, I want to tie back self-confidence to being late to the lazy piece. I had a trainer who said, listen, you've done your job. You know you've done your job. If it's like watching a ping pong match, right? They're going back and forth, and you're just like, they're actually talking, they're productive, but you, to your point, Scott, you are always vigilant. Always vigilant. You are making sure it's productive, not meaning not emotional, but productive. You'll only intervene when absolutely necessary. But it is lazy. But it is emotionally exhausting because you are constantly vigilant, and that's where the confidence comes in, knowing when to intervene, or when and if to intervene, and how.
And especially not to intervene. Okay, well, final thoughts to you, Ewart. And today, or mediation, self-confidence, and all that kind of.
Well, I was just thinking about something that Jane said, and then indeed, you're indeed the mediation is going well if you can indeed be that ping pong or tennis spectator. But I also sometimes think of it as being a lifeguard. You're just sitting there on your chair waiting until somebody drowns. And that's the moment that you have to get up and do something about it. That's your base case, let's say.
Yeah, I usually have read.
And the trust in the process, and it's all about the trust in the process. And luckily, mediation isn't about winning it.
No.
Yes, it's not about winning. So there we go. We don't have to be that confident. We don't have to keep bumming ourselves up and saying we're the greatest, because the bottom line is it's not our problem. It's their problem. It's their
Exactly.
And
self-consciousness will get you further than self-confidence.
Well, there you go. That's the. I'm never going to get rid of the image of mediation being about waiting for somebody to drown. That's
You sit on the ladder.
I'm going to put that in. That's going to be my caveat. I'm going to sit here and wait until one of you drowns. That's what's going to.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh yeah, excellent. I hope you all enjoyed that, folks.
Don't say you're quoting me when you're doing it.
Already written down. I've got it on a PDF already.
Oh God.
Yeah, I have to say, folks, we do have we're going to be back next month on the 9th of June, and the discussion. What's it going to be on? I'll tell you what it's going to be on. It's Sayamak Hariri. How do you build a sacred space? How do you do that? So we're going to be talking about sacred spaces in mediation, and whether indeed certain things, I suppose, are sacred. Are there things that you must or must not do? We'll be looking at things like that. And just before you go, put in your diary the 9th and the 10th of October. It's the annual conference. We have some speakers lined up. I don't know if it's fully official, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Ken Cloak.
Oh, great.
He's going to be there. One of the world's leading voices in conflict mediation, founder of the Centre for Dispute Resolution, co-founder of Mediators Beyond Borders, and author of seminal works on mediation and systemic change. Joan Goldsmith, pioneering educator and leadership consultant of 5 decades, whose work has shaped global thinking on empowerment, collaboration, and organisational transformation. Giuseppe Di Paolo, international mediator. Wow. Former UN Ombudsman, recognised for building mediation systems worldwide and advancing fair, effective dispute resolution. I think I'm right saying that he's doing AI in mediation and a workshop. And we have Liam Morgan, known as the Coach's Coach, is one of Ireland's most inspiring leaders and coaching and human performance, shaping generations through value-driven development, not to be missed. That's just some of them. 9th and 10th, you want to come along? It's going to be a bargain. We'll get the stuff out soon. You'll be able to see them. Many more announced, but 9th and 10th in Dublin, same place.
It was great. The last place was perfect, wasn't it?
It was. The chair was brilliant, I thought. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to say goodbye to everybody. I hope you had a fantastic time today, and we'll see you back on the 9th of June. Thank you very much, Ewart, and thank you very much, Jane. Thank you very much, April. See you later, folks.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for all the questions.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.